I've spent the last 5 years trying to right the ship of like what I want my life to look like and like why the hell am I doing this crazy entrepreneurial journey in real estate.
Some of those things have to happen for you to like get that wake up call. Like I can't keep running the way I'm running right now.
If you have no clarity where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years, you don't know how hard you need to push.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I have a special guest, one of my good friends, Danny Burgess. And the reason I brought you on, man, is I followed your journey over the last few years. We became buddies, and I've seen you go from, agent to team leader to, leader within our space to high level contributor also to our community, man. And I've seen you I see you just living this life of abundance and traveling the world. And I'm like, man, I got to pick your brain. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to be in that spot. So I'd like to just know a little bit about your journey, man, and how you got to where you were at, and maybe some things that you think agents should look at as they're building their business and focus on, and kind of go from there.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words. Like, I'm always kind of fighting imposter syndrome when I hear people say that stuff about me, right? Even I remember our first year we sold $100 million, and I remember looking at $100 million like 10 years ago thinking that was just this unbelievable space, and then I hit it and I was like, I still suck, right? And so I'm just constantly battling that imposter syndrome, and so thank you for the compliments. I started in the business 10 years ago. 10 years ago, almost to this date, I was still a Lyft driver and bartender in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I was living at my mom's house and traveling from Marin County through San Francisco to Palo Alto to train every single day in real estate. And I did that every day for almost a year straight. So my claim to fame is that 10 years ago, I was broke as heck, a taxi driver. I spent the first 5 years of the business. While I did make some good money, which I talk about often, the money came really quickly, within the first like 3 to 5 years. I was so busy, focused on the business, that I lost track of like my life, my health, my relationship with my wife. And so I've spent the last 5 years trying to right the ship of like what I want my life to look like and like why the hell am I doing this crazy entrepreneurial journey in real estate, which no matter the level you're at, whether you're selling 0 houses or 100 houses, it seems like the chaos never stops. Yep. Right. And so I'm trying to now build a life around the chaos and make it all worth it. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now in my journey.
Got it. Okay, so what I'm hearing is you must have realized something, right? Like, when did that light bulb go off, right? Where you're like, man, I gotta fix some stuff, or I gotta change some things. Was there a moment or something that kind of stood out to you?
2 really big moments. Bob, the broker from Keller Williams, Palo Alto, shout out. I hope you see this, Bob. I love you. He called me into his office, and it was a really stern call in. And are we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. I was like, I fucked up on a contract, or I did something wrong, or I was really worried because he'd never called me into the office.
Yeah.
And he calls me in and he says, this is a very true story. He says, that shirt looks a little small on you. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, you're popping out of that thing. And I was like, wait, what are you trying to say? He's like, dude, I've noticed that you've gained like a lot of weight since you've been here over the last 3 years.
Wow. Way to keep it real.
And so I actually did gain a lot of weight. I went from like 170, shout out to what I am about now, I'm 175 right now, to just over 200 in a matter of 3 years in the business. And I just had my first son, so I was really just trying to survive. And shortly after that, I had my first high pressure anxiety attack, which feels like a heart attack. If you have anxiety, an anxiety attack, a stress attack literally feels like a heart attack. And it was the scariest thing in my life. I was pulled over, I grabbed my chest and looked in the mirror, my eyes were red, and I went to the hospital. I had an EKG on my heart at age 33. And those 2 things in combination, pretty much within like a couple months of each other, sent me on a journey of health and fitness and reducing stress. And then eventually that transformed into a much deeper level of consciousness towards just living a really cool life and making life based on life, not business.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I can relate to that because I've had my share of battles with anxiety and stress and overwhelm. And it's it's when your plate's full, man. You got so many things, you're doing, right? And stuff starts slipping through the cracks. Maybe your health, maybe you're not being mindful of just how you feel or how you're showing up. And then out of nowhere, man, there's just like, what the hell's happening? Why do I feel like this, right?
Racing heart. Dude.
Yeah,
it's
your
like
heart's racing, and then you just want to run out of the room or something, right? Like,
yes.
It is scary, and I've learned to deal with it, and I'm glad to say it's, I'm able to, get it under control, but that's a scary thing. And that also, challenged me to figure out, like, all right, how do I try to eliminate stress from my life as well?
100%.
And I think it's some of those things have to happen for you to, like, get that wake up call. Like, I can't keep running the way I'm running right now, right? And so it was good that it wasn't anything major, I guess, right?
Yeah.
You were able to catch it.
And I do like to tell agents that no matter the level you're at, like, health and mindset are the most important things.
Yeah.
And focus on clarity of what you really want out of life. Because I've met some of the biggest producers in this business who are so envious of my lifestyle. And you would never guess it, right? You'd say, oh my gosh, that person's selling 500 to 1,000 homes. And they're like, damn, Dan, I wish I had what you have. And so we're always playing this comparison game. And it's never a game that you win. Yeah. And you have to build a life around what's important to you, and what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's critical.
And one of my coaches told me that a long time is your business should serve you, not the other way around, right? You should be doing the things that are going to ultimately serve this dream life.
Yes.
Instead of like, hey, you're tied to the business. Everything revolves around what you're giving to the business, right? And it's a mindset shift. But it's hard, man. It is really hard because you feel like, hey, I got to chase this deal. This client's calling me. I got to do all these things. How do you like turn that off, man? When like clients are, pulling at you, but then maybe you have like things that you got to do for yourself, right? Or your family, like,
yeah.
Is there anything that goes to your mind or you tell yourself? I don't know.
I think a couple big things. Number one, most important thing that I had to get over, and this probably didn't come until like year 5 in the business, was just letting go of perfect. I wanted everything to be perfect. And when you want everything to be perfect, you never allow other people to help you, right? You never allow your virtual assistants, your marketing director, those types of people that you have to bring in if you want to live a balanced and full life. You gotta give up on perfect. You have to understand that people are going to mess up, but part of your journey is the mess ups so you can build the system so then you can travel to Spain, you can take an RV trip, you can do these things.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go through this mud of failure and not perfect.
Yeah.
And you have to just give up the power. That's the most important thing. And then right behind that is thinking. So like spending a lot of time every day just thinking. And there's ways that you can accomplish multiple things that are aligned with life, which could be business and family. Let's just use an example. Like if I said, hey, I'm going to spend a date day with my daughter every single week, which is one of my things that I do every single week. Like sometimes she's going to have to go do a property tour for Daddy Date Day, right? And we'll have to make it fun. And how do you make that fun, right? We stop for ice cream. We film her in the home or whatever that might be. So just thinking of how you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish without sacrificing, one for the other.
Yeah. I like that, man. I like that because it's just a totally different way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Where you think like it has to be like this or that.
Yeah.
It could be all of it in one, right? I was listening to a podcast yesterday with the rapper Big Sean on the School of Greatness, and he was talking about how a lot of times we think everything is connected, like how you feel could be connected to like how successful you are. And he's saying a lot of these things, like they're separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could be the most happy person because you choose to be and because you set your life up that way, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're killing it in your business, right? Yep. And a lot of times we associate those two things, like I won't be happy unless I'm doing this, unless I'm doing that, when those are two like separate things. Yep. And I think what I've noticed with you is like, it seems like you're conscious of that and you're intentional about that, right? Like all these are all different areas of my life that have to coexist, and like how do I make sure like I'm doing the best in all of them, right?
Yeah. And detaching from the world, I don't know why this popped in my head, but detaching from the realm and the facade of real estate is like kind of important. because there's so many shiny pennies out there, people that we're comparing ourselves to within the industry that kind of like warp what we may think is success, right? And you guys got to remember that everything you see on social media is marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And if the great leaders of our industry are great marketers. So you have to be able to detach yourself. Like I told this to my buddy the other day, or maybe it was a couple months ago. I said, is it okay if you made, so he made a decent amount of money. And I said, let me ask you this. If you had to work 20 more hours a week next year, so instead of working 60, you work 80 and double your income, would you take that? Or if we could half your hours worked, but you only make $500,000, so you only work 30 hours a week, but you make $500,000 next week, are you gonna be more happy with that? And he was like, the latter. He was like, yeah, 30 hours a week, make 500 grand, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Right, so I think giving yourself perspective on like what is growth to you is also super important. Yeah. Like, does it matter that you go from $1 million to 2 million, or does it matter that you go from $1 million to $1 million, but you work less time?
Yeah.
And that's just such a sick, cool perspective to have.
Yeah. And it's how you're measuring success, right? Like, as what you're describing, you know, and one of my coaches told me that early on is just how many deals you close isn't the only way to measure success.
100%.
Like, the day you die, he made us do this eulogy exercise, bro, which is extremely powerful.
I hate that exercise.
And he's like, the day you die, I want you to think about you're dead and everyone's at your funeral, and I want you to start writing down what you want people to say about you.
God,
right?
what a powerful exercise.
And man, like we did that exercise, bro. People were crying, bro. I challenge everyone to do that once in their life, right?
Such a great exercise.
But what he said is like, it's not gonna say on your tombstone like, there lies Danny or Enrique sold 1,000 homes. It's not what it's gonna say.
Never.
Right? And so we got to be conscious of how we're measuring success, right? Is it time with our family? Is it what are we doing with the income that we make, right? And it's just looking at our business in a different way. And I think it's powerful when you stop, right, and take some time to really think about that shit, right? Because that's what matters.
And defining the clarity. Like I just said this to my wife on the drive-in. I called her and gave her some gratitude because without her, I would have nothing. We would have nothing without my wife. And so I was just telling her that. I was giving her some gratitude. But one of the things I said was the reason why we are able to pursue so hard towards our goals is because we have crystal true clarity of where we want to be in 5 years.
Yeah.
And that will impact your day-to-day routine. If you have no clarity where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years, you don't know how hard you need to push.
Yeah.
And so when you're pushing hard, it feels terrible. But when you're pushing hard and you have crystal clear clarity of where you want to be in 5 years, it just feels not as hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Because there's a target, right?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, I have to do all this really hard, crazy stuff today because I want to be there in 5 years and I have to do this today. And so that's a really important part. I remember hearing leaders and coaches and mentors 5 to 10 years ago saying, hey, you have to have crystal clear vision. And I genuinely was like, I don't even know what that is, right? Like I couldn't even tell you what that is and I didn't even try.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the other side of it and I'm like, wow, now I get it. Because it's kind of like your own secret, kind of little inner secret plan.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, they don't know. But in 5 years, like for me personally, I'm not going to be in real estate, right? Like my goal is not to be here in 5 years, right? I don't want to be selling homes in 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know that. Right?
Yeah. And once you decided that, then everything you do revolves around like the end goal, right? You can reverse engineer and start breaking it down to like my 3 year, my 1 year, my quarterly. Now, what should I be doing every single day that's going to get me closer to that?
So
right?
important. It makes so much.
It's powerful, man.
Powerful, makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
Like to handle and digest.
Okay, so let's talk like some tactical stuff, right? Because that's great, like in theory, right?
Yeah.
Like, but if you're coaching an agent right now, what are the few things that you would have them look at so that they can start mapping out that 5-10 year plan?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, like, right when we started this podcast, you said, what are we doing today? And I said, I'm making 75 outbound dials and I'm spending 1 hour on Mojo. So right before we started this podcast, that's what I said.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, you have to just understand that there is just no secret sauce here and it's just grinding every day.
Yep.
It's just like, hey, we got to hit our contacts. We got to hit our appointments met so we can hit our income goals. So if you just boil everything down to that, that's what it is. right?
So income goal, and boil that down to contacts per day that'll lead up to the income.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do it the Keller Williams model, which is that. But now I feel like we need to do better. If we've understood that we have to have the conversations, we have to move from conversations to appointment set at bare minimum. Because that's the next step up, right?
Yeah.
So if you're already consistently able to have conversations and you're not hitting that, what do we call it? Call reluctance, or prospecting reluctance. If you're beyond that, then you have to say, okay, I'm not leaving the office today. I do not get to go home until I set an appointment.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where we need to boil our businesses down if we're still in production. Right. Of course, team leaders, that one thing might be, hey, I have to set a recruiting appointment today.
Yeah.
But if you're an agent, I'm an agent and team lead, I got to set appointments. Right. If I want to sell 40 million this year, I have to set X amount of appointments to get there.
So get crystal clear on how many appointments you got to set. Right. And then, like with us, we do an exercise with our agents. Like, how many deals do you want to close? How many people would you have to meet with to get a contract? Therefore, how many appointments would you have to set to meet X amount of people?
And then,
right? And then you can go to conversations and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And so once you know that, then you could just track that on a daily and weekly basis. Like, hey, did I set my 4 appointments or whatever, right? I think we figured, like, at a very basic level, like 10 appointments equals 1 in contract for us. Of course, depending on where your leads come from, depending if you're really good at converting, that number could be lower. But, 10 is 1. So it's like you want to close 2 deals a month, you got to book 20 appointments.
Yep.
Right.
I love that. So simple.
It's really simple, right? And then it just becomes, all right, well, how do I get my appointments? Right.
And a huge thing that I've learned the hard way is front load your weeks, front load your months, right? So that you don't fall short on your goals.
So what do you mean by that?
For example, we're 3 weeks into the year. Right? So now if we asked everyone who's listening to this, where are you with your goals 3 weeks into the year? I want to know that you've at least set 6 appointments, right? Because our goal was 2 appointments set a week. Right? If you're setting 2 appointments set a week, you meet with 1, you probably close half of that, you probably hit your goal. Generally speaking, depending on the market, but that's like what we say. And for me personally, I want to, like, I shrank my goal down. And this is going to sound scary on the microphone, but I wanted to sell 40 million by December 1st, 2025. So then I keep writing down sell 40 million by July 1st, 2025. Right. And that may sound insane and I may not get there. But if I get to 25 million or 30 million by July 1st, it's going to be a lot easier to get to 40 million. Versus the other way around, which most people are lagging, right? And they may get to 10 or 15 by July 1st. And then all of a sudden they're like, they either adjust their goal or they're like freaking out. And then all of a sudden money's a problem. So I would go really hard in the beginning of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like prospect your tails off so that you're not playing catch up on appointments or contacts towards the end of the week.
That's smart.
Because we always fall behind.
Like, get the hardest shit done out of the, get it done first, right?
And what if you could only, like Tim Ferriss, what if you could only work, like, I work not that much because I am very focused Monday through Wednesday. And, this weekend we're taking Friday off, we're taking Sunday off, and it's full days off. And I have to hit these numbers to do that.
Okay, so got your numbers set now, right? You know what your income goal is. You know what the appointments are. Where do you go from there? Are you now like looking at what you can do with your income? Like, how are you designing your life?
So the next level of thing that I started looking at 5 years ago was, I was like, wow, I've never purchased a piece of real estate. I've made over $1 million in real estate in 5 years. I think I made like 1.6 million or something in my first 5 years, and it was just so much money. I had almost nothing to show for it. Nothing. I mean, tons of vacations, cool cars, hundreds of thousands of dollars thrown away on trying to learn how to build a team, but no assets. And when I moved to EXP was when I got introduced to the world of like wealth building and owning my passive income streams, right? And so now my ultimate goal is no longer how much money am I going to make this year. It's how am I going to increase my passive income? So my ultimate financial goal that I write out every single morning, right, is a passive income increase and a debt decrease. And that's all I look at. So I have a big chart in my office that is a big like science, the big tube thing.
Yeah.
And it's charting out my path to $40,000 a month passive income.
Okay.
Because I know when I hit $40,000 passive income per month, I have FU money.
Yeah.
And that's my goal.
Pay your bills, you can travel, you can invest, you can do, right?
So
it's like financial freedom at that
I'm on
point,
a sprint to 40K a month passive, and that's my ultimate goal and vision. And so then you remove yourself from selling real estate, and then it's just like, hey, how do I build a business? How do I build multiple streams of income? And how do I keep growing this snowball and then reducing my debt?
Yeah.
So
I like that, man. It's the way you're explaining it is so simple, right?
Profit first. Shout out to Tammy Pack. She was the one who absolutely put me on.
Yeah, that's an awesome read, man.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's just invest first, right, before you do anything else.
Yep, pay yourself first, man.
Which I never did.
Yeah.
Never.
Paying all your bills first, right? Instead of putting this piece away for me before anybody else touches it, right?
Mexico, Europe, Mercedes, taxes, bills, eating out, all of that stuff came first. Now it all comes after investing first.
It's funny, man, because when I first got in the business like 20 years ago, I was 20 years old, making a lot of money, and I didn't know what to do with it, so you spend it, right? Like going to Vegas every few months, shopping sprees, popping bottles, all this stuff, and I blew a lot of money, man. It's
so easy.
And then you realize later on, like, man, what the hell was I doing? If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't be working today, bro. Like
100%.
Right?
100%. I think most realtors are in that boat.
Yeah.
Like, because if you talk to most realtors, very few of them have like an exit plan. Very few of them have a wealth building plan.
Yeah.
And it's just much easier to like scramble out of debt and like go do all the stuff that you're not supposed to be doing than it is to just invest first. Because investing first forces you to go drive in more cash.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you make $100,000 today and you literally take 50 of it and go buy a property with it, you're left with 50.
You got to make it work with that.
You're probably not going to go do all the dumb stuff you were going to do if you had 100.
Yeah.
So you force savings and you force yourself to, I'm not going to say live beneath your means because I'm not necessarily good at that, but it does force you to be more conscious about your money.
Yeah, and do more with less, right?
Do more with less.
So that other part is going towards something that's going to set you up down the line.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the smartest things I did was early on was one of my clients, was losing their property to foreclosure. We try to help them, save it and all that stuff. And we weren't able to. And she's like, look, I just can't afford it. Like, I just got to get rid of this property. And I was like, all right, I could put it on the market. Well, why don't I just buy it off you? Yeah. So I somehow was able to raise the money, and I bought a fourplex in Stockton for $100,000.
Still have it?
Yeah.
That's such a good example.
And that was probably one of the smartest things I've done, because that thing has paid me income, for the last, 12, 13 years, and it's appreciated substantially in value. Man. And,
huge.
It's huge, right? Like, but sometimes you're not thinking about that. Like, you're just putting your realtor, like, how can I get a commission hat? And you're not really thinking like, well, is there an opportunity for me? Yeah. It's going to set me up and still help the client out and, whatever she needed, right?
Yeah, the money thing is so funny because I am just so guilty of it. Like, I was so blinded by being a realtor in the beginning. I never saw all the opportunities spinning around me. Yeah. And I'm sure right now I'm missing opportunities everywhere because my RAS isn't open to it. But looking back, I was like, wow, I was so silly. Yeah. Like giving deals with 30% spread on them to investors instead of just taking them myself. Yeah. I'm like, I made these people millions of dollars over the years that could have been mine, right? Yeah. And you got to be open to opportunities. I mean, that fourplex thing in Stockton is just the perfect example because you probably didn't have the money, but you knew it was such a good deal. You're like, I have to find the money. Yeah. And you will always find the money.
And I found it, however we found it, right?
You will always find
investors and partners and, paid a hefty interest rate just to get it, but able to refinance later and, now pull money out to buy another property and stuff like that. Yeah. And, you start trying to play Monopoly, right?
Like, you have to do that. There's no point in being in real estate if you're not doing that.
Yeah. Now, okay, so let's talk about, you mentioned EXP, right? This is not a plug for EXP by any means, right? It's there, but there's a reason, and I think you posted something the other day or on social media that it wasn't just EXP that has helped you grow, but it was more the group at EXP,
Yeah.
right? How has that helped you on your journey and helped you grow? And an EXP could be substituted for a group at Real or Taro or any other brokerage, right? But tell me about that, just the proximity to like these powerful players.
Yeah, I mean, immediately I was stuck in a room with John Cheplack, Daniel Beer. I was with Glenn Sanford, Michael Valdez when he was with the group. Like within just a year or two of being with the group, just having the proximity allowed me to start coaching for these guys for a short period of time until I decided I didn't love coaching to that degree. As I mentioned earlier, like comparison, we always are comparing ourselves to others. And most of the time, it's not good. Yeah. Most of the time, it's unhealthy. But when you're in the proximity of people who are where you want to be in a different manner maybe than you are in your life in a different garden, you realize, oh, wow, I could probably do this instead of this and have more of that, right? And it's as simple in our group as saying, I think I've hit you up for like, I don't know, many things, right? Hey, what would you do in this case scenario? Hey, this kind of sucks. What would you do here? And you're like, dude, that's just part of the journey, right? Just having like someone to lean on when times are tough is huge, but also someone to just say, hey, can I have the playbook on what you did to build this farming network of 3,000 doors, right? Yeah. Which is what I just did 6 months ago, right? I reached out to someone in our group and asked them for their farming template, and they just handed it to us.
Yeah.
Like, here's all my failures. And that one thing probably saved me $100,000 in mistakes, right? So I may not be wording this appropriately, but basically you're allowed to just copy people who have made mistakes before you, so you don't have to lose the time, the money, the stress. And no other brokerage have I ever found will do that because you're in direct competition with them.
Yeah.
With us, it's not direct competition. Like Daniel Beer, Kyle Whistle, Mark Pattison, what are they, the top 3 team leaders in San Diego, and they all are within the same group?
Yeah.
Right? So they're all crushing it together. They're all rising the tide together, and they're just outpacing the entire market.
And they're all in the same market.
They're all
right?
in the direct same market.
And they share all their shit.
They share everything. Like what?
And they happen to be the top guys, right?
What brick and mortar could you ever mention that would do the same thing? They're not financially incentivized to help you, whereas in our group we are, because we're all trying to help each other grow with the revenue share.
Yeah.
It's the magic bullet.
Yeah. Once I like realized that, I was like, man, because I was an independent broker for many years, right? Just that, PRG real estate for 13 years.
Yeah.
And once I got exposed to that, I'm like, man, I can try to figure all this stuff out on my own, which I did a lot of cool stuff, but it took a long time. Or I can partner with these people who have like been there, done that, and they're way past me.
Yeah.
And like just get instant access, man. It's like the cheat code for growing, right? You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
Right? But like you and I are now connected on a deeper level because we're part of the same group, right? I can call you any day and say, hey, Danny, let me have that thing you got, that PDF or whatever. And you're like, here you go. Vice versa,
just
right?
Yesterday, there was a listing opportunity in Cupertino, and it was a $3 million listing. Enrique was like, hey, let's co-list it. I was like, deal, let's do it. Right? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? There's no competition. It's all collaboration.
Yeah.
It's just different.
It's different, man. And I think that's why you see a lot of people in our group like growing their business and building these amazing organizations a lot faster.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the barriers are just taken off, right?
Yeah.
Where it's open sharing and open information. So whether it's EXP or another group, but like I challenge every agent to be a part of a group like that.
Yeah,
right?
You have to be this day and age.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense. It's the fast forward button.
Yeah.
It's the fast forward button. Like you want to move faster, be next to somebody who's willing to give you everything they've ever done before you. Tony Robbins says, stand on the shoulders of giants. Follow the breadcrumbs, right? Yeah. This is the same thing. It's the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
Find mentorship. So
awesome, man. So I mean, in closing, what's next for you, man? What do you? I mean, I see you do some cool thing, man. You're traveling all the time. You're still doing the marathons and ultra marathons, right?
Yep. We have a triathlon this year. 3 Spartan races. Oh, Spartan race. Late May. You should do it with your team.
Yeah.
Engage your team. Oh, we still got to run or something.
We still got to do some sort of run, bro. We'll figure that out.
The Spartan race, late May though. It's in the books. Monterey, May 31st. I'll leave you guys with this though. Build focus on building a big life, not a big real estate business, right? The business follows your growth, your mindset growth, your spiritual growth. Your life and your business kind of go hand in hand, but you got to build the life first.
Yeah.
You got to be the person who is the millionaire before you go get the million. I mean, it's that simple. You got to attack the growth first, and the business is easier then.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think we covered a lot, man. I do really appreciate you making it out here. And thanks for just always like willing to contribute, man. I know anytime I hit you up, it's like, yeah, I'm there, right? Hey, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, I'm there. Hey, you want to speak on my panel? Yeah, I'm there.
Anytime, man.
I think that sort of attitude, man, and you're just willing to just take action and get out there is a big part of your success, right?
Hold on.
And there's our timer.
Well, thanks for having me, Enrique. And if you guys aren't supporting and following Enrique, he's a mentor of mine. He's a brother, and what a great business he has. So I just want to say thanks for having me. And if you're not following him, jump on it. He's the man.
Thank you, brother. How do people get a hold of you?
I go by The Giving Agent on Instagram, and you can hit me up there.
You have a Facebook group too, right?
We have a pretty large Facebook group, trying to get more traction in there. It's 29,000 agents countrywide, called the Giving Agent Mastermind and Network Group. You can send referrals there. You can ask questions there, grow, contribute, and see you out there.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you soon.